Hi, I'm Brigitte Kingsley. I'm a producer and an actress,
And I'm Andrew Sidmick, writer, director, editor.
and welcome back. So today, last time we spoke a little bit about the budgetary constraints and the creative aspect of the process. And today we're going to jump into what we do now that we have a script and sort of a budgetary idea. So I think the next step that we take is to start figure out different paths of how to get the project off the ground, which is always one of the most challenging parts of the process. But the very first thing we do is we kind of get an idea of what we want to spend on this project or what we need to spend on this project. So the very first thing we do is we go through the script with Andrew, and I literally I break it down into sort of a schedule, and we go day to day, and I say, who do you need on this day?
Yeah, um, I'll be like, okay, well, the camera, I would like a steady cam on this day or a crane on this day. And then you kind of start assembling the days in which the expensive days. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. So I try to figure out I try to figure out the cheap days. So I'm like, how many days do we just need to be me, you, and Josh?
Yeah.
Josh is already beat. And so we go through that, and that gives me a starting point to build a real budget. And I start getting down to those numbers. And then what we do is we try to figure out how we're going to raise this money. And to make a movie nowadays, I mean, I don't think we can do it for much less than a couple $100,000, to be honest. And that comes down to there's a lot of hard costs. Now, can we make a project for 10 grand and throw it in the camera and have something? Sure. But there are hard costs that producers and filmmakers always forget and don't know that they exist. And this is why a lot of films end up stuck on somebody's shelf because they can't get it out to the public. And I think maybe we should talk about some of those things today as well. One of the major things, I guess, is when you're finished your project, a lot of the times the sound isn't perfect, and maybe you want to go through some of the sound issues that are on sets and stuff, like the
Well, I think that the acquisition of the sound on set is incredibly important. But a lot of times, with the fact that you're an independent production, and a lot of times you're on location, and you don't have complete control over that location to get perfect sound. You need, obviously your sound recordist has to be knowledgeable in terms of where they put the mic in order to get as clean audio as possible. But a lot of times, just the fact you're shooting outside, and if you're out in the country shooting outside, the uh, the octave or the level of crickets in the background will change depending on the setup. So, even with as clean audio as possible, there is that level of crickets. So just little things like that where you're not necessarily thinking about, and then when you're in post, if the dialogue isn't perfectly clean, then those crickets actually change every time you're cutting. So your sound designer and your dialogue mixer and editor, they want the cleanest possible source. And a lot of times you think that uh, the sound, because it's after the shoot, you might not put as much money into sound design as you probably should. And ADR, additional dialogue recording, is something that I don't think any filmmaker really loves to do, but I think it's essential to get. Um,
Yeah, I mean, because you can't. Here's the thing with indie films: you can record all your stuff and you get it done. But at the end of the day, if your sound isn't good, um, it will literally be something that a project you give to your family and friends, and you're not going to be able to get it out to the public. You won't be able to get it on iTunes or Netflix or anything like that because you have to pass something that's called a QC, and a QC is a quality control thing where it's like they run it through and they tell you all of the issues with your project. And even at high levels with great sound, you're still going to have some issues. So in your budget, you do have to put some money in to fix the sound. You have to put some money in for a composer, to have a project play. You need some sort of music to move the film forward. You're going to need things like insurance. So insurance hits you before and after. The insurance, you can't get away with it. If you want a location, you're going to have to spend a couple $1,000 on a policy. And then at the end, if you want to give your project to a Netflix or an iTunes or have a deal to have it out on DVD, you're going to have to spend $5,500 on a policy called errors and omissions, which is basically protecting the project from legal repercussions. So all of these things really add up. And I think like the cheapest you can do all of that post sort of stuff, your deliverables, which is basically all the tapes and things where you have your closed captioning and your descriptive video. These are all things that you can't get away with. You have to give to a distributor. So that's going to run you, I mean, probably around 50 grand, to be honest. So that's built into the budget immediately. So all of a sudden you lose that, and that's not in front of the camera. So then you try to figure out, where you're going to get the rest of the financing, what the other pieces are. And I think we can talk about how we decide on the casting. One of the major things to look at is who's going to be in front of the camera. I mean, those people are selling your movie. They're the ones that people are going to fall in love with, or they're going to hate, or they're going to love to hate. So you have two options. You can either go non-union with actors, or you can go union. And in our history, we've always gone union only because it's Andrew and I are both union to start, so we don't have a choice if we want to be in the project. We do really want to be part of it and support that. And the other thing is it just it opens up your ability to have this beautiful wealth of professional actors to come out and work on your project, along with name actors.
Hmm.
So the problem with going union is that it's extraordinarily expensive, and there's a lot of fees and things that you have to think about that are built in. But let's talk about the best thing that we found with the union has been working with a program called TIP, which is run by Tassolakis.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it earlier. The TIP program allows for lower budget independent films to be made with union actors, and it's already incredibly difficult to make a movie for the amount of money that you do.
Mhm.
And I mean, look, actors are the most important thing, and there are things that are into the in the ACTRA program that protects actors. And for me, like I said in previous podcasts about safety, there are rules that that are in place to prevent not only accidents but just taking advantage of actors. Which even if the filmmakers don't have the thought that they're taking advantage or doing something unsafe, the great thing about the actor union is that it makes you think about it.
Yeah, and as an actor, to be honest, like we're willing to do some really stupid stuff. Like if you want me to stand outside in my bikini in the middle of winter for 17 hours, I will likely do it. It's completely unsafe and I will probably die. But as an actor, that's just what we do. We don't think twice. We're like, producer wants us to do it.
And I think
it.
that's why
And
the union is there, because it's like
Yeah.
you have that. We're independent filmmakers,
Yeah.
right? We're guerrilla filmmakers where you can do anything.
Yeah.
What's that saying? It's like you were so busy. It's from Jurassic Park, the Jeff Goldblum saying. It's where he's like, you were so busy wondering if you could, you didn't think about whether you should. Right? It's like that kind of idea. So those rules are in place. But there is also a truth that the money to make films is not, there's a balance there where there's the reality of how much money you have to make a movie,
Mhm.
and also you have the idea of Hollywood. So we're right next door to the U.S. industry, and there are Canada acts as a service industry a lot of the time for the U.S. industry. They come in, they make their projects, everyone's well paid, well fed. That's, the unions exist there. And then there's the reality of Canadian independent filmmaking, where you kind of have to, it's much less budgets. And when people get used to the American style of filmmaking, which we would all love to be a part of, these giant budgets, and then you have to have programs in the union that kind of are aware, at least,
of the restrictions,
of the restrictions and the differences.
Yeah.
And that's where the Actor Tip program really has helped, because it has allowed us to do what we believe is like quality projects. Putting they talk about what is put in front of the lens is what is the money, right? So actors, set deck, right? If all your money is being allotted to one thing, you can say whether that's actors or whether that's set deck, whether that's whatever. If everything's being put, the other thing is going to not be as great.
Mhm.
So you kind of want to have everything be great, and that's where the actor tip program comes in.
Yeah, and it really does allow you to play a little bit with budgets because what happens is, let's take for instance, if we decide to, because right now we are in the process of trying to figure out if we're going to go actor tip or if we're going to go CPIP, which is a level up, or full actor. And full actor, I mean, is a little steep for any independent film. But there is a CPIP program, and the difference between TIP and CPIP is that CPIP you can bring in an American. The reason why we sometimes do that is for the networks. You know, sometimes networks want somebody that's got a name or some sort of ability to drive sales. And but the difference is, it's like when you bring on somebody from the U.S., you don't realize the implication of that on a low budget film because all of a sudden you're like, okay, you know what? Let's say I've got $10,000 to bring out somebody for 2 days. I'm going to pay them $5,000 a day, and it's going to be great. So you put that in your budget, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get your actor, and they actually say yes to $5,000 a day, which is crazy. And you get excited, and you bring them over, and then all of a sudden, what you don't realize is then, okay, so it's 10 grand probably American, so then all of a sudden that's much higher. It's probably 13 grand or something like that. And then all of a sudden you have to pay for immigration, and you have to take 2-3 weeks to do the paperwork for immigration, which is another $1,000, another couple $100 to actually bring them over, another $350 to buy them, you know, a permit. And then all of a sudden they want to have, you know, a 4-star hotel, another $1,000, you know, their own car. And all of a sudden this $10,000 that you thought you had for this actor has turned into 25 grand overnight. And it happens so fast. So when you're casting, you really do have to think about the repercussions of who you want to bring in, where they live, how you want to approach it. And then with the TIP project, like we said, it's the difference is you have to have all Canadians and they all have to be union members. That's the one rule. And a lot of the times at these budget levels, it's great because we live in and around Toronto, so there's this pool of great actors that we can bring in. And there's also, I mean, in non-union, there's a pool of amazing actors in non-union as well. The only difference is that then you're limited to, you can't bring both. Whereas, you know, with actor, you can kind of permit people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that that's also an important thing to look at in terms of, and a common thread in independent filmmaking and the common thread in all these podcasts is going to be that everything costs more than you think it costs, and because you're really penny pinching throughout,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to feel it. You're going to feel every single cost, right?
Yeah.
I've worked with some non-union actors, and some are really great. The difference is really experience and the protection. Like with actor members, there's more experience there. Are there
I think,
great union non-union actors? Yeah, there are.
yeah.
You know,
I think the biggest thing that we've realized when it comes to union or non, it saves you some time in the sense of like the continuity, the actual technical aspect. It might not show as much necessarily in the skill of an actor. Sometimes you can get a great skilled non-union actor. But what happens is there's a technicality to the acting that
right?
really comes
Yeah,
through where it's like you got to hit your mark every single time. You got to know like continuity. Was my hair this way? Was my hair this way? Was I holding this hand, this hand? A seasoned actor will know that immediately. And it does save you time and money in the editing room on the day and that sort of thing. So there is a lot of,
that's that
you know,
that in at least in our experience, right? Again,
yeah,
everything that we're talking about from our experience,
yeah,
and you're right. So let's, for example, if you're blocking out a scene, the actor is walking. He's got to take 5 steps. He's got to turn around, say his line at a specific part, be in the moment, and then keep going. And for this project, I was working with a non-union actor, and I was asking this person to do that, and they couldn't. They just could not hit their mark, and you kind of take that for granted. Now, his audition was perfect. It was a great moment,
yeah.
but it's that technical aspects where maybe they don't have the experience as much as other people of doing it. That's just one.
Yeah.
One
And the other
thing.
thing is, and I know we're harping on the TIP project today, but I think it's a great resource, and I'm sure other unions have it as well. I'm sure SAG probably has a program like this. But if you don't know Tasso Lakis, I think pick up the phone, give him a call if you're an indie producer, and talk to him because the other thing that they do for up and coming filmmakers is Tasso will take your script. He'll look at it. He will give you notes. He'll help you through the process. I mean, our first time was with Dark Rising, and that's when I met Tasso. As we, went through everything with him, and he made me very aware of all sorts of things, even from a legal perspective. Like he looked through my contracts, and he was like, "Oh, okay, well, you realize this and this and that," and it was really eye opening for me to have that kind of resource as a filmmaker. And he's very open. Like he wants to help grow the industry, which is amazing. And that's I think a theme throughout. It's like if you're making a project, pick up the phone and call people that are doing it. Call those resources because most of the time they want you to succeed and they will put you down the right path. So
No,
I remember
everyone wants you to fail. Remember that. No one likes you. You are taking someone else's place at the table.
The best is like when we started and people would give us advice. That's really how we felt, right? Because it's like we had this in our head where we wanted to do it this way and we wanted this and we wanted that. And when people would say something like, "Oh, well, that's going to be too hard," or "You should try this," or we were so stubborn and we were so sure that we knew the right way.
Well, I don't know if we knew the right way. We just thought we could do it.
We thought we could do it our way.
Blind optimism.
Which we eventually did. It just took a really long time.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't say that it was like we know better. We were like, no, we can do it. Yes, I know that we're down 28-3 and it doesn't look good, but it has been done. Yes. I'm just saying in the past.
But the funny thing is that now that we've got some years behind us, I hear myself giving the advice to filmmakers that are contacting me and asking me questions, and I'm like, oh man, they're not going to listen. And it's good because you should go out there and learn it on your own, and you should find your own path because there are a million ways to do this stuff.
And that's the thing, right? So here's an honest question. It's like knowing what you know now.
Yeah.
Do you make any different changes?
No.
That's the problem.
No.
Right?
But you know what I would do?
Go through it.
This is what I would do now. I would try to unlearn a lot of the stuff that I learned because what happens is when you first jump in, there's no such thing as no's. Like you just keep going and you have this blind optimism of like everything being
the
so
energy,
great.
It's the wave. You're like, I'm going to do this, impossible feat.
For sure. And you truly, with every fiber of your being, believe it. And with experience, the only issue is that you're kind of like, every time we start a movie now, we're like, do you want to do this? And like there's this whole moment where it's like you need to build that momentum up because you know how hard
I want the energy of youth back. I'm not that old, but I feel it.
Yeah, and even on comfortable shoots, I mean, there were days we shot Country Crush, and it was a great shoot. There's a great support, great cast, all that kind of stuff. But it was hard. It was really hard. We had weather issues, but we had to keep this positive.
Okay, so energetic. I gotta get on this weather thing because it's been bugging me for Country Crush, right? Yeah. And so usually you have a rain delay, a rain day, and you can reschedule. Country Crush had rain in the morning, perfect sun in the afternoon, and then rain in the evening. There was nothing schedule-wise that we could properly do. It was just the most frustrating thing because
every day,
we had a larger budget for Country Crush, but not a big enough budget where we could just postpone and then
we had $100,000 day where it was like, okay, we're putting all our money into this one great big amazing day. It's the finale. And so we look at the weather, we make sure everything's great, and we keep scheduling, and the day comes, and we've got, 40, 50 dancers, we've got another 50 background, we've got cranes, we've got, we had fire trucks, we had antique cars, we had everything. The entire town closed down around this area, and it is pouring rain.
But here's the problem. Okay, so it's pouring. Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But if we start shooting in pouring rain, and it stops, then we don't have rain towers.
So what we did, we went out. We got all these pretty colored umbrellas. We're like, strip. We're just gonna embrace this rain. We're gonna do the finale in the rain. It's gonna be perfect. It's gonna be beautiful. And then we're looking at the thing. We're like, oh shit, we can't start doing this because it's gonna be sunny in like 2 hours, and we're gonna lose our momentum. So it was really tough. Like that.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. There was another scene where we actually had to make the decision: do we let the background hold umbrellas?
Yeah.
Right? Because here's the thing: we either start the scene where they're holding umbrellas, and then it stops raining and the sun comes out and then all these people are holding umbrellas for no reason whatsoever?
Yeah.
Or do we let them, just kind of be in the rain? And luckily those scenes, they worked out, but that's
but all that to say,
that was a weather tangent that
yeah.
just happened.
So there was some mornings where even on these great big shoots where Andrew's like, I don't know if I can get out of bed today. I don't know.
Oh, right. That's what we were talking about. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so just to say that with the experience, there is, you have to still trick yourself into having that excitement, because it is so much work that if you're not fully and completely in love with the project and want to see this to fruition, like, you're just not going to have
you have to be committed.
Yeah.
In one way or another.
Which comes back to why you need to make sure that the script you pick, you're going to love, because you're not living with this thing for a month or two. You're living with this thing for 5 years.
And I mean, that's a really good point. Like, we're talking to independent filmmakers here, producers and directors who will live with this project for, I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of you right now watching this, independent filmmakers who are still working on their movie and it's going on 2 years, maybe more. They shot it like a year ago and they're still posting it because, and that excitement of getting it done. I mean, that's something where I remember we were shooting Dark Rising and we were editing Dark Rising, and as an editor, I'm there with the characters, and you get to, you're there, you see them at their best moments, their worst moments. You're spending all this time with these actors. And then I remember, and you're watching the edits, and then we run into the actors and we'd be best friends.
We're like, oh my God, how's it going? And you just feel so close to them, and you forget that you've only worked with them for 1 day or 2 days or maybe a week. Yeah. And they don't know you because they haven't been in your living room, or you haven't been in their living room every day for a year. Whereas there's that connection that you feel because they're literally in your house every single day.
Exactly.
And it's such a weird dynamic.
It's a weird thing. That's what I mean. Like, you're living with these characters, this project for a long time. And there are going to be moments where you love the project, and there are going to be moments, no matter how great your project is, you're going to hate your project. A question about unions. I'm wondering if we can do some stuff union, some stuff not. And the answer is there's different unions for different things. So let's say we decide to go union with the actors, then the union's ACTRA, and that means that everything does have to go through ACTRA. So we can take non-union actors, but we have to permit them and get permission to use them and that kind of thing. But it doesn't mean that we have to go union with our crew. The different crews are IATSE, DGC, name it. I don't know. We've never gone.
We haven't, to be honest, we haven't worked, even with the bigger projects, we haven't gone with unions in that way, just because we haven't had the budgets to support that yet.
I would love to be able to go DGC. I mean, I'd love to be a part of the DGC. It's just, independent filmmaking is tough, and you guys stretch those budgets already. Sometimes you can't.
Yeah. So basically that's the scoop. You can mix and match. And I mean, unions are very lenient, though. You can use some union members for your crew. They get dispensation. And they do want to work with you. I mean, it's as soon as you get the budget to support it, it's always a good idea.
Yeah, and I think again, it's having been in the Canadian independent filmmaking world for as long as we have. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a different world, right? I mean, we've seen. I've worked with a couple great focus pullers, right? And the reality of the situation is a lot of these focus pullers, it's their first couple projects when they work with us, right? And they cut their teeth on our projects, and then a couple projects later, we can't afford them anymore. No. And then we bring in the next bunch, and it's almost like we're training ground for the next. And it's a different world between independents and, like I said, those larger budget service industry projects. So
yeah, and I think it comes down to looking at the project you have and figuring out the needs, and also reaching out to the unions, talking to them, and seeing what they have to say and what they can offer. Yeah. So I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Instagram or Twitter. I'm at BEE Kingsley.
And I'm at Andrew Silver.
Thanks for watching, guys.